Okay, everyone. Good afternoon. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Evangeline Byers, train operator and candidate for president of TW Local 100. I'm being joined tonight by Ed Gajda of Mabstoa, bus operator, and retired bus operator Lloyd Archer, who was also once the division chair of TA Surface and is now the president of TWU 100R Incorporated, which is an independent retiree association that is leading the fight on Medicare Advantage. Tonight, we're going to be discussing consolidation in the Department of Buses. And so this is a very, very important live because tonight you will get some institutional knowledge as to what is consolidation, because there's a lot of confusion about what is consolidation, when did it happen, what can Mabstoa do, what can Surface do, what can MTA Bus do. We should be being joined by Mr. Hector Comrie. As soon as he comes on, we'll just bring him on so that you can hear from him as well. As you see on the bottom of the screen, there is a ticker. On that ticker is giving you information that if you are a member of TW Local 100, how to get information on whether you are a member in good standing or not. It gives you the name of Roy Plotnick, his information, and how to find out if you are in good standing to pay your dues in case you want to run for office, or and so that you can vote in the upcoming elections. We are full swing in the 2024 election year for TWU Local 100. There's also information regarding the reasonable accommodations for pregnant women. So that information is also running across the ticker. So with that being said, let us start off with Mr. Lloyd Archer. You can start off and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everybody. The name is Lloyd Archer, retired bus operator out of Brooklyn. Once a division officer from 2001 to 2009. Went back to the road 2010, drove a bus for 6 years before I left. Now, when I first took office in 2001, I was a division officer and also an executive board member. I'm going to take you guys back to 1988. Willie James was the president of Local 100. He had an issue in the contract where they wanted regional bus. And since I got on the job, we were against that because regional bus had a lot of intricate parts where they could move people, equipment at will. That means if you reported, let's say, in Flatbush Depot, they can tell you to go to the Bronx today and drive a bus because they didn't have coverage. We weren't going for that. So the president at the time, he surveyed us and asked us, what could we do instead of regional bus? A lot of bus operators were in my ear. They lived in the Bronx and they were TA, and you had operators that lived in Brooklyn that were OA. So what a union did was to make it convenient for its members. So hence came Consolidated Bus. When Consolidated Bus came, as I was on the e-board, I abstained from voting for it because I didn't know what it was about. To me, it sounded like regional bus. But as time went on and I read the agreement, I said, damn, this could work for people. If you were OA guy and you live in Brooklyn, you no longer now have to go all the way to the Bronx to work. You can pick a depot in Brooklyn and vice versa. Now the list now, since I've been gone, it's called a consolidated list. All us tier 4 guys. So the list is together, but you still have your seniority. You can still move at your system picks. All right. So I don't understand, why they're not explaining this to you guys, and it's causing confusion. All right. You're not going to lose your seniority. You can move at your system pick. If you live in the Bronx, and if they undo this, you'll be right back to where you started. If you're Brooklyn, you live in Brooklyn, you got to travel all the way to the Bronx to go to work, or to Manhattan. All right, that was one of the things. Now, the OA officers were against this because they lost how their vacation time was calculated. And they also, in this agreement, picked up an extra six sick days. They only had 6 before consolidation. And once consolidation went into play, you got 12 sick days, just like everybody around the board. Now, I'm not sure about this, but the OA people had different passes. They got the same passes that we had, and they could travel just like we could travel. And there's other things that I can't quite remember, and I don't have a contract in front of me to explain it. But a union looks out for its membership. It doesn't have one part of the union here and one part of the union here and causing conflict between the divisions. Now, some people you're still around that have a problem with consolidation. All right. And what they were supposed to do was meet quarterly, even in consolidation, to make sure nothing else happens. They weren't supposed to let any changes happen. But now I'm seeing ads that they're hiring 2,000 OA operators. In the contract, it says when the transit authority hires people, it's supposed to be 60% civil service and 40% OA. Because OA guys got to understand you're not civil service. You filled out a survey, you got the job. TA surface guys, TA, you had to take a test. So that makes you civil service. That's the only difference, and the pensions are different. You have a private pension. The TA operators is governed by NICES. Now, if they continue to hire OA operators, this job is going to be totally privatized. There's going to be no more civil service. All the civil service people that are here retired, and there's going to be no more. It's going to be privatized. Now, the pensions are going to be privatized. Your nicest pension is going to be in trouble. So you guys need to ask your vice presidents, if you're from TA Surface, why they are not allowing this. And there's supposed to be a gatekeeper, the vice president of TA Surface and the vice president of OA, to make sure that the numbers jive, the 60-40. And from what I'm seeing, it's not happening.
Right. So, Gajda, do you want to jump in and say anything before I start with the question?
Absolutely. I came on the job in 1995, April 24th of 95. Willie James was the elected president of the TW Local 100. Consolidation was starting in negotiations back then. When we went for our contract back in 1990, I believe 96 or 7, we were going for our contract. They approached us and told us that the TA was going to come into OA garages under the consolidation. The only problem that we had as an OA operator is that they never put down the appointment date of each individual. So we didn't know if our seniority slots were being violated. That was the big sticking point. As far as, see, if I'm hired on April 24th, 1995, if they're going to have somebody coming in from the TA side and they're April 24th, 1995, who has higher seniority? Or how do I know that the guy that's coming in from the TA side is coming into the OA operating authority has more seniority than me if they're not going to give us the appointment date? They weren't showing it on the seniority list. That was the big sticking point. So what they came out with, I believe Barry Roberts was the vice president of TWU at that time, of Mabstoa. He was the vice president. the big sticking point was he said what they would have to lose 5 years of seniority if they were going to pick out from TA garage into an OA garage. That was agreed upon. The only division that did not affect that was 126th Street because they were losing their home. The whole depot was closing. So they made them sign a waiver, a one-shot deal, that if they accepted to go into OA, they had to stay there. But they weren't going to penalize with their seniority. So a lot of guys from the TA from 126th Street came over. One of them, I'm trying to get in touch with him right now. His name was Charlie Storr. He's still an active member, soon to be retired. To make a long story short, when we keep hearing about consolidation, if you look at the payroll numbers of all the operators hired before 2001, you'll see their name, their payroll, and then right next to their payroll, you'll see a 0 or an O. That told the transit authority that they were hired before 2001. Once those zeros or O's are gone, that means that they have one master list, one consolidated list, that there is no more employees that were there prior to 2001 so they can go through with consolidation.
Okay, so give me 1 second. Okay, so I just want to talk about right now what is happening right now with the 2,000 bus operators that's being hired and some of the things that are already happening. So in Quill Depot, we already have ATU that is already driving out of and into Quill Depot. So we already have ATU on TA property as far as another local being in a OA garage. What do you want to say about that? As far as precedence goes, as we continue to fight this.
May I say something about that? Okay, I don't know. Well, if they're driving express buses,
mm-hmm.
and Quill Depot is where they park the buses. That's where they swing. If they came out of the private lines and they're driving express buses, that's where they lay their buses up. I don't think they're driving their lines, all right? Because you have Staten Island buses that come straight up the Prospect Expressway, drop people off, and when they swing in Quill Depot. So they're not driving their buses. Now, as far as the consolidation was not negotiated and implemented until 2001. There was a problem. Everybody worried about their seniority. This is how the seniority went. If you were a TA operator and you went over to an OA garage, you went to the bottom of the seniority list and vice versa. Now it doesn't make a difference because now that consolidated list is so dovetailed that it wouldn't make a difference. You lost your seniority because you moved. But if you went back, you kept your seniority. You went back into your seniority spot. That was an issue with a lot of people because that's the way. And now, right now, it doesn't matter because everybody is under consolidation. Most of the people are under consolidation. Us tier 4 guys, if you have, let's say, 500 guys left, as far as bus operators concerned, that's a high number. Everybody else is tier 6, and they're under this consolidation agreement. So there's that the past is gone, and we got to move on from that. Everybody is the same. The seniority is just dovetailed, and everybody has the
No, we
same.
understand that part now. But what the issue is now is that you have a whole bunch of people coming in under tier 6, right? And they are now trying to do away with overtime. There's memos going out that there's going to be no more overtime. Speak to how bringing this 2,000 employees on and violating the agreement of the 60/40 rule, how does that affect the drivers?
May I
Go
take the
ahead.
lead on this one?
Go ahead.
By them bringing in 2,000 new operators, what they're basically doing is they're extending the extra list of each depot. So in other words, if you have 110, 120 people on report, you'll have 60, 70 people on the AM side and 50 people or 40 people on the PM side. By them bringing in 2,700 operators, so it's not 2,000, it's 2,700. What they're doing is they're trying to get availability. They're gonna all those operators are gonna be put on the extra list. They're gonna have people sitting all over the place, which is going to destroy the overtime one, because if you have 200 people on the list and 200 people are calling out because of FMLA, sick, or whatever it is, they're covered. So there's going to be no overtime. When it comes to shuttles and everything else, that work is going to be done through the extra list. It's not going to be assigned to senior men to make overtime to build up their pensions.
And Gator, you're absolutely right. And that is another reason why, we shouldn't go back and forth with each other. Just explain to the people why is this hiring these extra operators and who should be watching, who the gatekeepers are, who should be watching this from not happening. All right. And they're allowing it to happen and educating the people, going to these garages and tell these people, listen, you guys, you're not trying to sound like management, but you guys got to understand this is why they're doing it. The FMLA stuff and all of that. But the union is still supposed to protect that 60/40.
Correct.
Exactly.
But now here's the problem. Here's also another issue. Because they're going to have all these extra operators that are coming in, whether it be whether each depot is going to be allocated a certain amount of extra list operators, they're going to be able to pick and everything else. No problem. But what happens when you got 80 or 60, 70 people sitting inside a depot that is not working? Because they're basically sitting, they're waiting for a piece of work that's not opening up. They're going to take those people and start sending them to other locations.
They can't do that, Gator. They can't do that.
Under the regional design, this is what they want. They want to be able to take operators from one depot, send them to another depot to cover the work.
So let's touch on this regional design. We're looking for the information, if there is any, in regard to regional design. But so what you're saying, Gator, adds to what you're seeing happening. It looks like they're trying to sneak in regional design.
Correct. But at the same time, everybody knows, if you look at the last contract, when they told us they were going to give us $4 an hour for driving the Arctics, everybody was like, oh, wow, we're going to get $4. But what the Transit Authority did was they cut the vehicle time on all the runs. 90% of the runs on SBS, or 80%, I don't have the exact figure, but everybody in Mabstoa knows that the runs were cut on the vehicle time, so you weren't making any extra money on the Arctic pay. So runs that were normally 12 hours would drop down to 10 on the vehicle time.
Okay, so moving forward, we need in TA Surface that there should be a grievance filed in regard to this situation, correct?
Yes, you do, because they are actually violating a part of the consolidation agreement. I don't know who would file a grievance.
Well, the members can file. Anybody can file a grievance.
But they have to make sure that it gets to the right channels, which should be, you should start at your depot level, whoever your GS is there, file a grievance, let him sign off on it. If he disagrees, it should go to a step 2 hearing, which is a labor relations person. If they disagree with it, then the arbitrator sees it. But you have to make sure when you file this grievance that you get the correct part of the contract, the number in the contract on this grievance.
Okay, so we have a question. We have a comment or a question that says, regional design is already here. Look at the way transit covers shuttles. I have seen ATU work in Mabstoa and in Queens.
Well, it's always been that way. It's always been. There was shuttle bus. There was a 2-train shuttle. I remember me coming all the way from Brooklyn, going on, starting all the way in the Bronx, and I'm talking about 20 years ago. Shuttle work has always been set up like that. The A train, we went into Far Rockaway. No TA bus goes in the Far Rock. No TA bus goes in the Far Rockaway. We went all the way up the beach 60-something street and brought them back to back the other way to, let's say, I'm just throwing out a number, Broad Channel. So it's always been that way. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You're saying, what are you saying? What has always been that way? That TA?
The shuttle work, if there's shuttle work, and let's say if the 2 train is down and it's down, if they're going to do the work in the Bronx and they don't have enough coverage in the Bronx Depot, they will bring Brooklyn in if the shuttle was big enough. The same thing in Queens. If the A train goes down in the Far Rockaway side, which is an ATU over there, they didn't have enough buses, they would bring Brooklyn in. So it's always been that way.
Okay.
See the division chairman of each Division 1 and Division 2, they're supposed to assign the work that's given to them as far as shuttles, which depot and how many each depot is going to get. Now, in Division 2, we have 3 depots. We have Kingsbridge, West Farms, and Gun Hill. So when Claude Anthony Marshall, the division chairman, gets work assignments as far as shuttles, he divides that up to availability, what's in each depot. So if he knows that Kingsbridge has been covering all their work, he'll assign a lot of the shuttles to Kingsbridge if they have it. If Gun Hill is covering all their work, he'll assign the bulk of the work to Gun Hill or who's ever going to pick up that work to get those shuttles covered. But the problem that they're having now is when you do housework has to be covered first. In other words, all the lines in the depot have to be done. They have to make sure that there's an operator per bus on each line and all the runs are covered. When that doesn't happen, they can't fill those shuttles. So they'll start taking operators from other locations that are filling their runs and sending those operators from other locations to cover those shuttles.
Mm-hmm. Can I just let me say this? They don't take the operators. If the housework is not being covered, they give the shuttle to another depot.
Correct.
They assign it to another depot so that the work will get covered. Now, in the instance that I was just speaking about, it could be a very large shuttle, and the Bronx can't cover it all. So what they'll do, Bronx and Manhattan can't cover it all. So what they'll do, they'll give Brooklyn some of the shuttle. The scheduling guys say, well, the Bronx can't, because I've been to those meetings, the Bronx can't cover all this work. Talking to the division chair, do you want some of this shuttle work? He'll say yes. Then he'll send X amount of runs to Brooklyn. Let's say 4 or 5 runs to Brooklyn, right? And they will cover the work. That's the way it works. Now, as far as moving people, if that's happening, it shouldn't happen. Only thing they should be moving is the shuttle work.
See, the only problem that we have with that in Mabstoa is the senior man who's already capped at 76 hours. Okay, I believe that cap is 76 hours. Once he hits that mark, he can't do any more overtime. But shuttle work is allowed to him. Okay, so a lot of the senior men look for that shuttle work.
As we don't want to go there as union people. If the man is getting work, we don't want to. mess him up and say he's getting work and he ain't supposed to. He's capped and all that. So we can't. Let's not.
No, but what I'm trying to get at is what the transit authority does now is if a guy is already capped at 76 hours, okay, if that's the cap, and there's shuttle work, and this guy's looking to retire, so usually the chairman looks out for those senior men and gives them shuttle work first because that's the only thing they can work. That money that's being allocated for the shuttle is not coming out of the budget from Mabstoa.
Absolutely, it's a subway budget that's coming out of the subways. Yeah,
correct. But now the whole thing here is they can't hold that against the operator. So the senior men are the ones that are always trying to get those shuttles so they can get that money. But the problem is when you're going to have 200 people on an extra list because you're hiring 2,700, those senior men will never see those shuttles.
And you're right. That's the fight. That's the fight before us.
Exactly.
And so another part of this is that what I'm hearing as we talk about this is that they will be pitting the newer drivers against those with seniority.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And what we want to avoid is that I believe this is being done to destabilize all the depots. Newer people coming in have no institutional knowledge. They don't know what they're going to be losing, what they're going to receive in. They don't know anything. The union has been consistent in not educating the membership on what it is, what's contractually available to them, and everything else. So these drivers, they don't know what's going to happen. So I think what we need to do is a educational campaign in the Department of Buses to help the newer drivers to understand that the Transit Authority is actually hiring them to take advantage of them, right?
Basically.
And to begin to help them to understand how to protect this work and grievances and things of that nature, and how to proceed with grievances, and the reason why consolidation has to be protected. If, excuse me, somebody's asking the question again, newer drivers are put on the extra list that they have more flexibility to cover work. Right. That's what we're saying. The newer drivers are put on the extra list so that they have more flexibility to cover work. But we want to make sure that we educate and not alienate the newer drivers that are coming in, and prepare them for this fight that's going to be before them, right? Because all across the system, not only in buses, but in all the other departments, everyone is feeling the hit when it comes to how they're handling the newer employees as far as scheduling work. They have absolutely no understanding of what's going on. So we have a lot ahead of us with that. But again, back to the grievance process, because I think this is very important. Do you all agree that MTA surface that there should be a grievance filed to deal with this?
Absolutely. Especially violating the 640.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we'll make sure that happens, that there's a grievance filed. And what does this have to do with the current VPs of the department? You have
Donald Yates,
Patafia, and Donald Yates, who are supposed to be the gatekeepers who are allowing this to happen. And, you know, we see them violating the contract often. We've seen it consistently that we have to continue to grieve their agreements. And they don't even know what they've done, just like what they've done with the Medicare Advantage. So now that we've, finished covering Surface and Mabstoa and MTA Bus in regards to
If I can just inject one more thing into that.
Go ahead.
6 is capped at 42 hours in their pension. So they could work 140 hours a week, 120 hours a week. Only 42 hours ago, that is going into their pension. Right?
Right.
Okay, so now here's the thing. Tier 4 guys, we're not capped. So we could work 120 hours. 120 hours is going to go into our pension. The reason why the transit authority is bringing all these new operators in is they want to keep the pensions low. They don't want to pay those high pensions anymore. So by bombarding all the depots with a whole bunch of people, they're destroying the overtime for the senior man. They're curtailing their cap as far as overtime. And two is that they're turning around and lowering the pension rates down for the members in Tier 6 as well as Tier 4. Because if you have 15 people on report or 20 people on report and you only have 8 pieces of work open, guess what? They covered all their work, but those people that are sitting on report are only going to get a certain amount of pay.
Right.
They're not making any money on their pension because they're capped at 42 hours. Now, granted, the big issue is that because they're capped at 42 hours and the most that they can make on overtime is $19,000. The bus pay is $83,000. You take the $83,000, you add the $19,000 that's allocated for them for overtime. Now you're at $102,000. Once they hit over $100,000, they have to pay 6% into their pension. So for every $100,000 Tier 6 guys are making, they're losing $6,000 out of their pocket to their pension. Now you times that by 20 years, you're looking at $120,000 that they're spending on a 20-year span for their pension. But if you look at Tier 4, we're only paying 2%. On a 20-year span, we're paying $40,000. That's an $80,000 difference.
Can I just say something about that?
Go ahead, Arch.
What's going to happen, and I hope there's a lot of Tier 6 guys on this live stream. You guys, this is yours to take. These guys up at the union are all, and I'm not running for office or anything. They're all Tier 4. Most of them can walk away at will. This is your job. This is your union. Take this union and put it in the right perspective. All right. And I just want to talk about this Medicare Advantage real quick. For the guys that were here for this contract and they promised you guys all of this elaborate bonuses and whatnot, they're full of shit. I'm going to put it plain and simple. I'm retired from transit. It's so many of us that's retired from transit.
21,000.
What happened was this. They gave y'all the contract off the retirees' back, and it's no respect to you guys. I'm a union man. You guys wanted this contract, but I want you to understand, one day you're going to be sitting right where I am. You're going to be retired too, and they're going to have this Medicare Advantage. I'm just going to give y'all a little quick story about myself. I had to go to a cardiologist. He seen something on my aorta. He wanted to do a CAT scan on me, but he had to wait for pre-authorization. But he said, I'm going to do it anyway because I don't know what this is. I did it anyway. They saw it. It's not that bad. Do you know I had to wait 5 months? I didn't have to, but I waited 5 months for this letter to come telling me, okay, it's authorized. I could have been dead. This is the type of medical stuff. If you're not listening, and if you're not on the page that I have, TW100R, then you don't know what we're going through. Us retirees are going through. All right. We were the backbone. We helped you guys get on this job. We worked so you guys could get on this job. We fought the fight so you guys could get on this job. I'm going to ask you guys for your support also. I have a website. I'm not going to take over Evangeline's show standing on my soapbox about this, but this is very important, and you guys need to understand. You're going to be sitting right where I am one day, and if you think they're already coming at you guys.
Well, wait, but let's qualify what you're talking about. Something happened today. Today at the executive board meeting, we got word from the people who are on the executive board that the president of the union is trying to derail the efforts of the retirees who currently have the Medicare Advantage case in court. So we're currently fighting retiree medical. The case is coming up on May 9th. So what
Thank you, Evangeline. Thank you.
what Mr. Archer is saying to you is that Richard Davis, who is the president of the union, he negotiated, lied to all of the members and said that retiree medical was an enhancement, that we were getting an enhancement, it was much better. But what in all actuality, what was happening is that the Medicare was being given away and it was settling the contract as a give back. So we lost our retiree medical. Now, anybody who's Medicare eligible, even if you're not a retiree, if you're Medicare eligible, you no longer have that option under TWU Local 100 because they gave it back. And that's the problem that we have, is that the retiree medical is no longer what it used to be. And what's happening to the retirees is that when they go to the doctor, they don't take Medicare Advantage. And due to this happening, we had to go and sue. So we're currently in court suing to get back Medicare and to get Medicare Advantage out of our contract and give it back, put the Medicare plan back to what it was originally. Today, at the executive board meeting, the president of the union told the executive board, which was reported to us from executive board members, that TWU 100R Incorporated is stealing the money from that's being given to them for the lawsuit, right? Which makes absolutely no sense because we have to pay a legal team. Okay, this is not being done pro bono. There's no one doing this as a charity. 100% of the donations that come into TWU 100R goes to the case. Okay, and the bill is mounting daily. Every time you speak to an attorney, every time they're working on the case, every time they're doing something for the case, every time they're submitting motions or any type of anything that's being requested of the court for the case, they have to pay for that, right? So Richard Davis is scared that he's going to lose. So he's telling everybody, stop giving to the retirees because it's likely that they're going to have success. So he's going to lie and say that they're stealing. Typical Richard Davis, right? He's going to do things like this. He's going to lie. He's going to, make up stories or whatever. But we want you to all to be cognizant of what happened. The retiree medical was a give back. And it was this, and the give back affects us who are active employees. We will not always be strong. We will not always, be at our most optimal. A lot of us will retire and have health issues and health conditions, and that's from working here. So in order for us to retire and be able to receive the same quality of care, we have retiree medical in our contract. And so it needs to be protected. And so on May 9th, we'll be in court. Please continue to make donations. I put the TW100R.org in the comments so that you can go on and give a donation to the retirees. Small donations go a long way. If you give $5 and you put it reoccurring and you continuously submit that $5, it goes a long way. If you put $20, whatever it is, and make it reoccurring, this ensures that we're going to be able to win this fight. But it takes all of us to contribute and to help out. So we just wanted to address that lie that was put out to the executive board. Go ahead, Ed.
I want to piggyback on that. Every contract negotiation has what's called concessions. You got to give something to get something. What Richie Davis basically did was he gave up the traditional Medicare Advantage CPPO to the Transit Authority, which saved the Transit Authority $78 million a year. Let me say that to you again.
A little bit more than that.
CPPO saved the Transit Authority $78 million per year. That turned out to be the raise that we got at 3%. That's how they did. They took from Peter to give to Paul, but they took away from the retirees to give it to the future. Now, because he took it away from the retirees, Okay. The problem is that the retirees are fighting back. They're saying they want their traditional Medicare because here's the problem. They
our traditional Medicare, because this also affects active members. It's our traditional Medicare.
Paid for that and there's security. So for 30 years, as an operator like myself, I've been paying into that traditional Medicare plan for 30 years through my Social Security payments. Now, all of a sudden, it's taken away from me. That's something that I paid for. I wasn't even reimbursed for it. And I was switched to a government-funded CPPO, which has a lot less. Now, if I wanted to go into Sloan Kettering, I can't. I can't walk into Sloan Kettering because they don't accept the CPPO. But now, under the traditional care, I could have. I could have walked right in there and turned around and got seen.
Let me just piggyback on what you about these hospitals. A lot of these hospitals do not take Medicare, as we call it, disadvantage. Sloan Kettering, as Gajda just said, if you drive a bus, a train, or whatever you do, anything with repetitive motion where you may need a joint replaced, the hospital for special surgeries do not take that. All right, so you got to understand that this is privatized insurance instead of, like he said, the government Medicare that we paid into our whole work career. All right. And you guys have to wake up and try to understand that, again, I'm just going to keep repeating myself. One day it could be you. And Evangeline, on something about educating the membership, this is something that we used to do. Every time a TA class or OA class came into Zariga, 2 union officers were up there to greet them, to tell them and educate them on what a union was about. Because you got a lot of guys that's working with you now, never was in a union shop, and they don't understand what a union is all about.
Well, they've departed permanently away from what it is to build a strong union.
Absolutely.
So also, I'll also plug that we're having shop steward classes.
There you go.
That I'll also post online. The next class coming up is May 11th. It's for you to come in and get the information and of what it is to be a shop steward and what you're missing and the representation that you're not receiving, and for you to understand what that is. You cannot judge whether your union reps are effective if you don't know what services that you're supposed to be being provided. Buying you pool tables, having parties and all those things, okay, that's nice, okay? However, this is about your job, not partying and eating chicken. It's about your job. This is about your livelihood. How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to retire? You know, taking care of your children, putting your children through school, and all of the other things that go along with being employed, being an employee, and all of your benefits that come along with that. Having a union is a very powerful thing if it's implemented properly, if we're using it properly. Currently, we're not using it properly, and because we're not using it properly, we see that we're losing a lot. And as the newer people are coming in, I know just from interacting and talking with them, they're not getting the information. They don't know. They're totally shocked when I say some things to them. They look at me like, what did you just say? You know, and then we're able to have the discussion and the conversation because we're no longer educating people, and they're doing this purposely, right? This is because they want to continue to stay in power. What in the world is a Future Leaders Program, right? What does that have to do with being a member of the union and a shop steward who is knowledgeable on the floor to stop management from being abusive to the membership, or you writing yourself out of a job? How does that help? It doesn't help, right? So we're prepared and we're going to continue to keep educating everybody, but we just wanted to come on tonight to talk to you all about consolidation so that you can clearly understand what consolidation is, that we can begin to get a grievance filed so that we can begin to protect the work that we have and that we can operate the way we're supposed to operate as a union. Understand, our advocacy and our pushback works. Not too long ago, I came on talking about the women who were being denied a reasonable accommodation. Well, after I made these videos and started talking about it, guess what happened? The union, once again, for the 1,000th time, went and filed a lawsuit against New York City Transit. Now there's a TRO that a judge ordered that the MTA is to start adhering to the reasonable accommodation laws. The TA is not adhering to it. They're saying that they have been following the law and they have not been following the law. And this is very important. If we don't advocate, if we don't say something, if we don't stand up and fight back, then it just goes away silently. Our members are taken advantage of. But when we speak up and fight back, it makes the union have to do something. Remember, the grievance had to be filed on Richie Davis when he went and signed away our overtime on our RDOs, right? So again, it's our bringing the information to the membership at large for you all to know that makes the union have to move. If you don't participate, if you don't say anything, then they get away with murder, right? They can do whatever they want. We have a lot, excuse me, we have a lot that's going on in this union. We're going to come to you with and discuss more issues and let you know what we're doing. But I thought it was very important to talk about this because a lot of newer drivers do not understand what consolidation is. And a lot of times, a lot of people have a different opinions about consolidation. So we wanted you to hear what it is, right? So, and also be vigilant that the people who are currently in power are actively misguiding and misleading people and telling them anything because they know you don't know no better. But they won't give you a contract. They won't make you a shop steward. They won't give you the tools that you need to be able to function in your job, right? And to be able to protect yourself and be a real union. So we just wanted to bring this information to you all, and we'll be back again to talk to you all about more issues and things that are going on in the union. Remember to donate to TWU 100R. You can just go on their page and click the donation link and you can donate there. Remember that they will be in court. We will, well, not they, we will. We will be in court on May 9th. May 9th is when oral arguments begin for the Medicare Advantage case. That will be online. So hopefully we can get the Teams link and everybody can come in and be able to hear the oral arguments and what's going on. So that's the goal, for everybody to be able to hear what's happening and to hear what your union did to you. We were attacked from within, okay? And you need that as a big deal. All across New York City and state, we're dealing with the rogue behaviors of union reps and leaders who are departing from the tenets of what constitutes real labor. Another thing we're going to come back and talk to you about is this whole law. There's a bill out about the pension system right now, and we all need to get involved in that fight. But we'll come back because we're coming up on an hour. It's too much to cover right now, but we're going to bring you more information about all of these things that are going on. And remember,
Good. I'm sorry. I just want to say this on the grievance. Whoever files that grievance, please, just not your name, but make sure that you put et al. On that grievance. That covers OA and TA. That covers everybody up in surface transportation. All right. Remember, if whoever files that grievance, ETAL, that covers everybody.
Right. Okay, perfect. So this concludes our talk for tonight. Do you have anything you want to say, Gajda, before we close out?
I just want everybody to know, let's be safe out there. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. Operators, train conductors, everybody's getting assaulted. Be mindful of your surroundings. Make sure you keep visual. All we want to do is go home safe. Just remember to stay alert. At any given time, something can happen. Just be safe. We're working on that. We are going to sit there and fight for your safety at the same time. We'll address those issues at a later date. But I just want everybody to know, please stay vigilant and be safe out there.
Thank you. So this concludes our discussion for the evening. Have a good evening, everyone.